My name is Patricia Yop, and I'm 29 years old. I didn't want to go to that family picnic. I knew exactly how it would go. Fake smiles, whispered judgments, and my sister Melissa showing up with something expensive just to remind everyone she lived a more glamorous life than the rest of us. But guilt is a powerful force, and my mother had left 3 voicemails about family unity, so there I was, parking my beat-up sedan next to Melissa's boyfriend's shiny SUV. The moment I stepped onto the grass, I saw it. Melissa, in her designer sunglasses, unloading a monogrammed, pastel-colored cooler from the back of Ethan's car like she was filming a lifestyle vlog. The thing probably cost more than my monthly groceries. She waved at a few cousins, tossing her hair over her shoulder. When she spotted me, her smile didn't move past her teeth. Great, showtime. I walked over to the picnic table with a plastic grocery bag containing off-brand chips and 2 cans of soda. I set it down quietly. Mom glanced at it, then at me, with the familiar disappointment of someone expecting a gourmet feast. Dad gave me his usual distracted nod, like acknowledging me was optional. The rest of the family trickled in. My cousin Rebecca, who never pays for anything but always has perfect nails, and Aunt Joanne, who still insists my name is short for mistake. No one corrected her. They never do. Everyone settled into the kind of performative warmth families like mine excel at. Smiles too wide, hugs too tight, conversations too shallow. I wasn't even angry anymore, just tired. For 2 hours, I sat through their favorite pastime, mocking me. They joked about how someone still hadn't found a boyfriend. They teased my plain clothes. They said I needed to smile more because life is short. My mom made a comment about how some of us know how to grow up. Dad chuckled like it was a punchline. It was the same old game. They mock. I ignore. The world keeps turning. But then Melissa decided she needed a moment. She stood up, an overpriced glass of rosé in hand, and tapped it for attention like she was giving a wedding toast. Everyone went quiet. They always do for Melissa. She raised her glass and smiled sweetly, poisonously. Here's to Patricia, she said, the one who always shows up broke, discouraged, but still trying so hard to be important. Laughter erupted. Even my parents joined in. Even my parents. Something inside me went very still. I picked up my cheap plastic cup of flat soda, held it up just like she did, and said calmly, "To Melissa, the desperate one who didn't realize I closed the account she uses to pay her rent." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Somewhere a kid cried. A bird flew off. Melissa's smile shattered. Mom's eyes darted to Dad. Dad stared at his cup like he was trying to crawl inside it. I didn't flinch. I didn't explain. I didn't give them anything. I just took one long sip, wiped my hands on a napkin, and stood up. I'll be heading out. No one stopped me. No one asked where I was going. No one asked if I was okay. That was the magic of my family. They could watch the world collapse and still pretend nothing was happening. 8 days later, my phone buzzed. "Melissa, rent. Can you send the usual tone 200?" I didn't respond. I went on a walk instead. Bought myself lunch, read a book, took a nap. Hours later, I finally replied. "Me, no." She called. I let it ring. Then the text came. "What do you mean, no? Are you serious? You can't just stop. It's hard right now. Ethan's looking for work. I'm already behind." I replied, "Move in with Mom and Dad. They have space." She called that ridiculous. She said I was being vindictive. I told her the truth. "It's time for you and Ethan to grow up and live within your means." That's when she went crying to our parents. The next morning, Mom left a voicemail trying and failing to sound calm. She talked about family supporting each other and how I was blowing things out of proportion. I texted back, "If you're worried, you can help her, but don't ask me to keep paying people who treat me like trash." An hour later, Dad called. "So you're cutting her off? For real?" "Yes." "And the mortgage?" His voice tightened, suddenly cautious. "I won't be paying the $300-400 next month either." Silence. Then laughter, disbelieving, mocking, the kind that said, "You're bluffing, you wouldn't dare." But I meant every word. I dared. And for once, I enjoyed watching the world tilt back toward me. They thought I couldn't function without them needing me. They thought I didn't have the guts. They were wrong. 2 days later, Mom called again, pretending she wanted to check on me. I ignored it. Then she sent a photo of her dog from 10 years ago, like nostalgia could soften me. I didn't reply. Rent day passed. Melissa sent a long string of dramatic messages. "Patricia, I'm getting eviction warnings. You can't do this. It's hurting Ethan too. You said you'd help until we were stable." I answered, "You've had 7 months. That's enough time to get stable or move somewhere you can actually afford." She tried calling me heartless, tried blaming me, tried crying. Then she wrote something that made me pause. We might have to break our lease and move back home. I replied instantly, perfect, that's exactly what I suggested. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Because I knew the truth. She wasn't afraid of moving. She was afraid of being seen moving. The entire persona she built, successful, put together, independent, would crumble. And even worse, she'd have to admit I was right. Later that night, my boyfriend Evan texted me. Sabrina reached out, not sure why. His ex. Of all the weeks for her to reappear. I stared at the message for a long second, then put my phone down. Not today. I had enough chaos already. The next day, Dad called again. We spoke to your sister. She told us about the rent. What's going on with you? I'm done, I said simply. Patricia, the mortgage is due in a few days, he said carefully. Are you really leaving us hanging like that? You had your warning, I said. I gave it at the picnic. You didn't mean that, he muttered. But I did. I absolutely did. He hung up. That weekend, Mom texted, You don't understand how hard things are. We've been counting on you. We thought we were a team. I replied, You didn't treat me like a teammate. You treated me like an anxious ATM. No response. For the first time in years, the silence felt peaceful. Not empty. Peaceful. Things stayed quiet at first. Too quiet. A dangerous kind of quiet, like the house going still before a storm hits. For 3 whole days, my phone didn't buzz once. No guilt trips. No demands. Not even Melissa's dramatic paragraphs about her mental state. It felt unnatural. Evan noticed. We were eating takeout on his couch when he said carefully, Your family hasn't called. No. That's good, right? Or it means they're planning something, I muttered. He didn't argue. He knew my family well enough by now. But then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted. Barely, but I caught it. Who's that? I asked. He hesitated. Sabrina. His ex, perfect timing. What does she want? Just said she hopes I'm doing okay, he scoffed lightly. She's probably bored. I tried to brush it off, but it sat in the back of my mind like a splinter. My life was already a mess. I didn't need ghosts from Evan's past trying to crawl back in. But I didn't say anything. I didn't need another emotional disaster. Not today. The first cracks. On day 4, my phone finally lit up. It was Melissa. She sent a photo of a yellow paper taped to her apartment door. Eviction warning. Final notice. Then, like a flood, Patricia, please. Please. They're threatening legal action. Ethan is freaking out. He says he can't deal with this. I'm scared. I stared at the messages. For a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. Then another text came. This is your fault. Ah, there it was. The real Melissa. I didn't answer. Back home. That night, I got a message from a distant cousin I barely spoke to. Hey, is it true your parents' house is in pre-foreclosure? My stomach dropped. They had been hiding it, pretending everything was fine, pretending they had everything under control, pretending I wasn't the one holding their world together financially. Now everyone knew the truth. By the next morning, I heard the full story from 3 different relatives. Melissa moved back home. Ethan left 2 days later. My mom cried so loudly the neighbors heard. My dad started snapping at everyone. Bills were piling up on the dining table. They were blaming each other. They were blaming me. Not one of them blamed their own choices. The voicemails. Mom's voice was caught somewhere between furious and desperate. Patricia, I don't understand what's gotten into you. We're family. You can't just abandon us like this. You know the mortgage is temporary until Dad's pension comes through. It had been temporary for 4 months. I deleted the voicemail. Dad's was shorter, sharper. So this is who you are now? Punishing your family? Acting better than us? Is that it? I deleted that one too. I wasn't interested in being guilt-tripped by the same people who laughed at me at the picnic like I was a joke. Melissa breaks. A week later, I woke up to 27 messages from Melissa. Half were insults. Half were emotional breakdowns. You don't care about me. I can't breathe. I'm shaking. You wanted this. Your silence is cruel. I need you. How could you? Dad said you're acting psychotic. Mom said you're punishing us for no reason. You're destroying us. You're enjoying this. Please help me. Please. I read them all. Then I wrote one sentence. Get a job, Melissa. She didn't write back. An invitation to disaster. 3 days later, Mom texted, Dinner tonight? Just to talk. No money stuff, I promise. I almost said no, but something inside me wanted to see it, to see what happened when the financial scaffolding fell away. So I went. When I pulled up to their house, the lawn was overgrown. The porch light was burnt out. The windows looked dim. Inside, the air felt wrong, tense, cold, stretched thin. The dining table didn't even pretend to hide the truth. Half was covered in overdue bills, half in reheated lasagna. Dad looked older. Mom looked frantic. Melissa didn't come downstairs. "Hi, sweetheart," Mom said too brightly. Dad barely looked at me. We ate in silence for a long moment. Then Mom leaned forward. "We're in a tough spot," she began. "Just for a little while. If you could—" "No," I said calmly. Her smile twitched. "Patricia, don't be dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic," I said. "I'm being honest." Dad sighed heavily. "Families help each other." "Exactly," I said quietly. "I helped. For months. While you mocked me. While you laughed at me. While you acted like what I did was nothing." Mom blinked fast, like her eyes were stinging. "You're making this sound worse than it was," she whispered. I looked between them, at their exhaustion, their denial, their confusion that I wasn't folding. Then I said, "I'm hosting a picnic, just us, 1 month from now. I'll decide then if I'm helping again, or if this ends permanently." They froze, but they agreed. They didn't have a choice. I stood, left my untouched plate on the table, and walked out. Outside, Evan called as I sat in my car. "You okay?" he asked. I thought about the bills, the tension, the desperation, and then I thought about Sabrina messaging him again earlier that day, asking if they could catch up sometime. I exhaled. "I will be," I said. For the first time, I actually believed it. The month leading up to the deciding picnic felt strangely calm. Too calm. My family didn't text, didn't call, didn't even passive-aggressively post inspirational quotes about loyalty on Facebook. The silence felt less like peace, and more like they were saving their energy for an emotional ambush. Meanwhile, Melissa had fully moved back home. I knew it wasn't going well because every few days, a neighbor would message me things like, "Your sister just yelled at your mom in the driveway. Is your dad okay? He was pacing outside for half an hour." Even Evan noticed the tension whenever he dropped me off near their house. "It feels like a pressure cooker," he said. And he wasn't wrong. Job hunting and ghosts of girlfriends past. At the start of week 3, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by job listings, making a folder for each family member. Evan came over to help me search. "This one's perfect for your dad," he said, pointing at a warehouse position with forklift training included. "And Melissa?" I asked. He smirked. "Clinic intake receptionist. Requires patience, communication skills, and humility." "Humility?" I laughed. "She'll quit on day 1. He kissed the top of my head. "Maybe not." But then his phone buzzed. Sabrina. Again. He glanced at it, then flipped it face down, jaw tightening. "Do you want to talk about that?" I asked quietly. "No," he said firmly, "because there's nothing to talk about." But something in his voice made my chest warm and ache at the same time. Still, I pushed that feeling aside. I had a different battlefield to prepare for. Picnic day. The sky was overcast, fitting, considering the emotional climate. I sat up early at the park. A plain folding table, water bottles, simple sandwiches, 3 tidy folders with names on them, no decorations, no music, no emotional manipulation disguised as family togetherness. Just honesty. A few minutes later, they arrived. Melissa wore a sundress and full makeup, like she expected paparazzi. Mom wore a cardigan despite the heat. Dad looked tired, deeply tired, like he'd lost more than sleep lately. They approached slowly, smiles plastered on like masks. Mom hugged me first. "Sweetheart, you look thin." Dad patted my shoulder. "We're glad you're giving us a chance to talk." Melissa stood with her arms crossed. "Let's get this over with." I sat. They sat. Then I slid the folders toward them. "What's this?" Dad asked. "Help," I said. They opened them. Melissa laughed, high, disbelieving. "You're joking," she said. "A receptionist job? Seriously?" "It suits your strengths," I said. "Organization, people skills, smiling under pressure." Mom's smile cracked. "Patricia, this is insulting." Dad frowned at the warehouse listing. "You're trying to humiliate us." "No," I said softly. "I'm giving you real options, real stability, real responsibility." The wind stirred the papers between us. Melissa shoved her folder away. "You think you're better than us now?" "You asked for help," I said. "This is help." Then came the explosion. Mom yelling about respect. Melissa crying about image. Dad accusing me of enjoying their suffering. I let them speak. I let them drain the poison. Then I said, "You treated me like an ATM, like I owed you my life, but I was drowning. And when I stopped, you acted like I betrayed you. I didn't. I just put the burden back where it belonged." Silence. Their anger flickered into something else, something uncomfortable, something like realization. But they weren't ready to accept it yet. So they packed up and left. All 3 of them. I stayed at the empty picnic table, sipping my water, watching the clouds break open to sunlight. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone. I felt free. 3 days later, I was making coffee when my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. Hello? I answered. Hi, this is the clinic calling to confirm your sister Melissa Yop's first day on Monday. I blinked. Wait, she actually accepted? Yes, she completed her interview this morning. Lovely girl. I hung up and just stood there. Melissa, my dramatic, stubborn, allergic to responsibility sister, took the job. Not because she forgave me, not because she grew up overnight, but because she finally saw the truth. Her life wasn't sustainable without change. A week of shifts. The next person to reach out was Dad. Dad, is the warehouse job still open? I sent him the contact again. No lecture, no commentary. A week later, I heard through a cousin. He'd been hired. He was showing up early. He was trying. Then, quietly, Mom took the kitchen prep job, using her maiden name to avoid judgment. She didn't tell anyone, but I found out anyway. And none of them asked me for money. Not once. Not a hint, not a whine, not a guilt trip. It was unsettling, but also the most peaceful month of my life. The follow-up picnic. After 4 weeks, I sent a message to our old group chat. Follow-up picnic, same spot. Saturday, come if you want. No one replied. But they all showed up. Melissa came in scrubs. Dad had grease on his hands, work boots still dusty. Mom wore a windbreaker and no jewelry. For the first time in years, they looked real. No performances, no competition, no pretending. We sat at the same plain table as before. I'm not paying anyone's bills anymore, I began. They didn't flinch. I'm not responsible for your lives, I continued, but I do care, and I want us to find a way to be family without me carrying everything. Dad nodded slowly. Mom wiped her eyes. Melissa looked down at her hands. Then she whispered, You were right. We needed it. No theatrics. Just truth. It landed softly, gently, finally. Aftermath. A few days later, Dad texted, Got forklift certified today. Mom emailed a photo of a food drive flyer, not asking for money, just asking me to share it. Melissa sent a selfie in her work badge. No caption. But the pride in her eyes said enough. And me? I booked a one-way solo trip. Not to escape, but because I finally could. Because freedom wasn't leaving my family. It was finally letting go of the belief that I had to buy my place in it.